Hello you guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jess and today we're going to talk about all of the books that I read in June and then all of the books that I plan to read in July. I feel like I had a really good book month this month. I read 10 books this month, which is crazy because I never read that much, including the fact that I read 3 graphic novels. If you, for whatever reason, put those 3 together, even though they are technically 3 separate books, I still read 8. So that is actually a crazy amount of books for me, especially. I don't know where all the time came from, but I'm really excited to tell you guys all about it. So I have all of my notes here in my phone and we're just gonna run through all of the books. I'm gonna go through in the order that I finished the books. I'll tell you guys the rating and my thoughts on the book, and obviously I try not to give any kind of spoilers or anything like that, so if anything feels like a spoiler, I'm just not going to go down that route. If you are new here though, please consider subscribing. I also have all of my Goodreads and anything like that in the description box, so feel free to follow me there as well if you want to see like live updates as to what I'm reading during the month. And let's just jump in. So the first book that I read, this one was an audiobook. It was The Honeymoon Crashers and I gave it 3 stars. I thought that this one was cute. It was basically a sequel to the novel The Unhoneymooners. And I don't even remember what I rated that one, but basically in that story, there is a character who, it takes place at a wedding. So the wife in that story, that's who this book follows. Why was that so hard for me to say? Her name is Amy, so it's all of Amy's side of the story. And I'm not going to dive too deep into what happens in the Unhoneymooners just because I don't want to give away any spoilers like I mentioned. But I thought that this one was really cool. It was an audiobook and it's only been released as an audiobook and it was like a full production. So there were multiple actors, they had sounds and stuff. So like anytime something crashed or like there were waves or anything like that. It was so cool. I thought it was super immersive. It was more like watching something than reading something. So I just really enjoyed it. It was only a 3-star for me because it was a shorter book. I think it was technically a novella. And it's just one of those books that you kind of already know the direction that it's going to go in. So I did really like it. It just wasn't like a 5-star either. So I gave it 3 stars. I thought it was cute and I highly recommend listening to the audiobook, especially if you read The Unhoneymooners. The next was the Heartstopper series. I actually had already read number 1 and 2 in a previous month. I think it was last month, if I remember correctly. So this month I read volumes 3, 4, and 5. I collectively gave this a 3-star. I thought that this was a cute series. I think that the like downside to it is that you just automatically kind of know the direction that it's going to go when you start reading it. The thing that I really like about the Heartstopper series is that it's very true to the character's age. Like I feel like the things that the characters are going through or like the things that they're saying are exactly how it would have happened if you were in high school. So it's very real in that way. But really, a lot of these books go through really dark topics, which I just totally wasn't expecting. I feel like these like heavier or dark topics are kind of hard to talk about, especially in the community that this book relates to. This is a book surrounding 2 characters. One is out as gay at an all-boys school, and then the other one is just kind of trying to figure out what his sexuality is, but they end up really liking each other. So it goes through different parts of that, like figuring out what colleges you're going to go to or what that even means when like one partner is a little younger than the other, so on and so forth. And again, it's just like really real topics that happen in high school, but obviously it just dives in a lot deeper too to again heavier topics that I won't get into. So definitely check any trigger warnings just in case, but I really liked it and I liked that even though it was light and fluffy, there were these heavier topics. So I gave it a 3-star. I don't really know what to rate graphic novels quite yet, like how to rate them just because I've read so few, but I think this one opened my eyes a lot and I would be intrigued to read some more. The next book was One Perfect Couple by Ruth Ware. I gave this one 3 stars. This was my book club book for the month. I was a little nervous about this one because Ruth Ware is a little hit or miss for me. I really liked 0 Days, but I didn't like The Lying Game. So it's just like kind of depends, but basically this book is about a group of people. Some of the people are like social media stars, influencers, actors, that kind of thing, and then the other people are those people's significant others. So all of them are going on to this island. They're trying to be a part of this new TV show, basically like a reality TV show. Imagine Love Island except for with much higher stakes. But of course, nothing goes right on this island and there is someone after all of the characters. characters. So you're kind of trying to go through and figure out sort of like a whodunit. It kind of reminded me of the concept of And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie, where one person by one is sort of taken off the island, whether that be they disappeared or they died, and you slowly try to figure out again who is the actual bad person on the island. I think between the 40 to 70% mark, this one was fantastic. It could have been a 5-star if it was just those like pieces, but the beginning was a bit slow for me, and then the ending just felt like it wrapped up in a way that just felt weird to me for the book. I don't know if that even makes sense. And then on top of it, the author decided to double down on a few things that I just felt like, I don't know, it just felt like she just didn't trust the reader to interpret what she was saying, and I just didn't love that either. So I ultimately gave it 3 stars, but I thought it was like an okay read, and I don't regret reading it, but I was definitely like, nah, that could have been better. The next book that I read was Funny Story by Emily Henry, and you guys already know that this one was going to be 5 stars. I love Emily Henry. She's an auto-buy author for me. She is always a 5-star for me as well, so I just am obsessed. And basically this one is about our male and female main characters, Miles and Daphne. They're both dating somebody, or in Daphne's case, she's engaged, and Daphne's fiance and Miles's girlfriend end up together. So Miles and Daphne end up being roommates because they aren't in those relationships anymore, so they're not living with their significant others anymore, and obviously from there it goes into a romance. I thought that this one was so funny and so cute at the same time. I think Emily Henry does a really good job of making her characters feel really real. Like, I felt like I was reading about actual people in this book instead of just characters, and I loved it for that reason. Miles and Daphne really explore who they are alongside the romance part of the story that we get. So I just thought that there was like so much more than just the romance out of this book, and also the banter between them was actually funny. Like, there are moments where I was laughing out loud or like running to Ryan to go tell him about something that happened in the book, which rarely happens. So I really liked it for all of those reasons. So this one was a 5-star for me. I really loved it. That's all I can really say. The next book that I read was Running Wild. This is by K.A. Tucker, and this is the 3rd in the Simple Wild series. The actual series is about a girl who lives in Toronto. She goes to Alaska to basically be reintroduced to her dad. Like, she wants to re-meet him. She ends up falling in love with a bush pilot, and that bush pilot's best friend is a vet named Marie, and so this 3rd novel follows Marie. So I was hesitant because the first 2 books plus a novella all followed the other main character, and so switching point of views to this other main character who we haven't really explored was really hard for me. I feel like I don't do so well when the main character switches completely like that, so I was nervous, but I ended up reading this one as an audiobook. I am glad that I finished the series, but it just was like, I don't know, it was fine. I gave it 3 stars. I think that this one was just like pretty much just a love story. I did enjoy about this one though that I really didn't know what was going to happen until actually the last chapter. They kept you on your toes the entire time. Like, you kept thinking, oh, it's going to turn out great. Like, everything's going to be good. And then you're like, wait, maybe it's not. So I thought that it was like really fun that even though it's a love story, like, you'd never actually know how it's going to happen or like what's going to come of it. So I like that it kept you on your toes. I did not like that there was a particular part, and I won't exactly say what happened, but it was just so cringy. Like, I've read my fair share of romance novels, and this was just like to a degree that was like too cringy, like way too cringy. I just got like the ick from it. I didn't like it. So I finished the book because I was just like so close to finishing, but I was really like, it almost took me out of it so far that I was like, I can't read anymore. But I'm glad I finished it. I just didn't love that part. So it is what it is, but I gave it 3 stars. The next one that I read was Powerful, which is the novella that follows the Powerless book, which is a trilogy. Basically, the way that the author describes the series is if you took Hunger Games and Red Queen, they had a baby, but then it grows up to not look like either of its parents, which is an interesting way to describe a book. I haven't read Red Queen, so I can't really speak to that, but I have read Hunger Games and watched the movies, and I do agree that it is a lot like Hunger Games. It has trials and everything. It's like Hunger Games, but with powers, which is really fun, except our main character is powerless. So that's interesting. This particular novella was really fun because it brought me back into the series. I got to re-explore everything and like understand the world again, because I think I read Powerless in January. So it's been a few months, and I was really excited to get back into the world because the second one comes out in July. Basically, the main character's best friend is a seamstress, and this novella follows that seamstress, and she meets a boy and just goes through everything that she goes through while her best friend is in the trials. So I really enjoyed it a lot. I think that like I wish it could have been a full length novel. I would have loved to just like had understood that side of the story a little bit more, but I still gave it 5 stars because I think for a novella it was so good. It just like I wanted to finish it immediately. I loved it. And I love that character so much more. Like I always kind of liked the character, but knowing what she was going through, I'm obsessed with her. So 5 stars. The next book that I read was When in Rome, and this one I have seen so much information about online. I ended up giving it 2 stars, and I feel so crazy for saying that, but I read it as an audiobook, and I'm glad that I did because since I've seen so much about it online, I just felt like it was overhyped. I just felt like I wasn't really going to love it, and so I was like, let me just listen to it instead of dedicating time to reading it. And it definitely kept me entertained during my runs, but basically it's about this main character, and she is a pop singer, super famous. She wants a break, and she's obsessed with all things Audrey Hepburn, and so she decides to try to go to Rome because she's trying to emulate Roman holiday, except Rome is way too far. She has a concert coming up, or like a tour coming up, and so instead she just Googles the closest Rome, and she finds that it's in Rome, Kentucky. So she goes, but her car breaks down, and she ends up meeting this guy who helps her out while she's there, so on and so forth. So you get where it's going. I felt like it was fine. Like it was okay. I thought that it was entertaining for, again, during my runs, but I am glad that I didn't read it because it just really turned into a grumpy sunshine type trope, and I don't hate that trope, but it was like a little predictable, I guess you could say. So I gave it 2 stars. I thought it was really cute, but wasn't super like my type of book necessarily. And then the last one, Kingdom of Ash. I put this one last because I literally started this one on the 1st of June and did not finish it until the 30th. It took me so long to get through this one. I gave it 2 stars, and it's for so many reasons. It felt so bad to give this one 2 stars, especially because I just went through the entire series, and some of the books in the series were 5 stars. Like I wanted to think so highly of the series and this book, but really I felt like Kingdom of Ash kind of ruined it for me. I'm like so sad to say that. I really feel like if this book was 500 pages instead of 1,000, I could have gotten the exact same like feelings out of it. But really, and I want to make sure I'm getting all of the points across because I don't feel like anyone ever talks about these things online. They only talk about how much they love the book, and I just feel like it's too hyped up. So first of all, it took like 400 pages for all of our characters to meet back up again, and that was only a portion of those characters. For every one of our characters to come back into each other's lives, because in the previous books they all had their own like side adventures. For all of them to come back together, it was like 800 pages out of the 980. It was like crazy that it took that long, and it was like so disappointing because it felt like they could have been together for so much longer. The first like 300 pages, I felt like nothing happened. Like that truly could have been like 2 or 3 chapters, maybe like 5, but it did not need to be 300 pages. It was just too much. I also felt like a lot of the things that happened was like someone swooping in at the last minute and like saving the day, and it just felt kind of like there are no real stakes. Like it's supposed to be a pretty high stakes book, but there are no real stakes when someone keeps swooping in and saving the day, because nobody's dying. The people that were killed off were just like, I just felt like it didn't need to happen the way that it did, and it just really fell flat for me. I felt like the last thing on that, I felt like there was a particular moment that we had been waiting literally the entire 8 books. Like this whole thing was hyped up, the whole like side quests and everything all had to do with this one moment, and then that moment didn't actually even matter to the end of the book, and it just like happened and then like moved on, and it was like, oh, that didn't work. And it was like, what do you mean it didn't work? Like we just read 8 books worth of them trying to do this thing so that this outcome would happen, and it didn't happen. It was just a little frustrating, and that also fell flat for me. So again, I just feel like if this was 500 pages, I would have gotten the exact same sentiments out of it. It just didn't need to be that long, but on top of it, I was just trudging through this one, so it just felt bad to, I don't know, to have to like read all of this and just feel this way. So I gave it 2 stars. I wish that it would have ended so differently because I I really wanted to root for these characters and I loved them initially. And so I'm so sad that the writing style and the way that the story was told made me not want to learn more about my characters. Does that make sense? Like the characters I care about, the writing style and the way that it was written just made me not want to learn more about them. So that's where I was with that. I feel like I have a lot of unpopular opinions about the series, mostly because like between me really liking one of the characters and one of the books that's like the least or like lowest rated, alongside not liking this book and everyone's like, oh my god, this was the best ending ever. I'm just like, I don't know what you guys are talking about, but I feel bad for saying it, but it's the truth. And I think that it just goes to show that reading is subjective and we can all take different things out of these books. They're just books at the end of the day. So those are all of the books that I read in the month of June. Again, I had a pretty good reading month. I felt very excited about that. So let's go through quickly the books that I'm planning to read in July. The first one is the third Housemaid book. I have been wanting to read this one for a while. This one is by Frida McFadden, and I just feel like her books are always really fast-paced and like easy to read. So I'm excited for that one, especially after Kingdom of Ash. I just want an easier read right now. The next one is Reckless. Obviously, I'm super excited. I want to get back into the world, the powerless world, and learn what happens next because the first book was a total cliffhanger, and then obviously the novella didn't dive into any of those things, so really excited to see what happens next. The next one is The Summer Will Be Different by Carly Fortune. I've heard pretty good things about this one. I think Meet Me at the Lake was her second book, and I've heard pretty bad things about that one. The Summer Will Be Different though, I'm excited for. It's going to be our book club book for this month, so I'm excited for that one. And then the next one is Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. I would love to read that entire series, but I know you can read them as standalones, but I just want to read them in order. So I'm going to start with Part of Your World. And the last one is The Extraordinary Life of Sam Hell. I got this one as a recommendation from Ryan's mom, and it's been on my shelf for a little while now, but now that I am done with the Throne of Glass series and I'm reading more standalone books, I'm really excited to dive into that one too. So those are all the books that I read and that I plan to read. If I get into any other books, obviously I will let you guys know in the next recap. And if I do, I'm hoping to cross some more off of the summer TBR as well. So that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know in the comments below what book you read last month that you really loved and what you're planning to read this month. I always love to hear from you guys, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye guys.